I mean, fundamentally, this is such a horrible piece of work that Louise Casey has had to do, as in her findings are so damaging and distressing. And it's also extraordinary that the Metropolitan Police has been, in some sort of special measures, has been criticised for such a long time, and yet nobody has done the work that Louise Casey has done this time around in depth. I find Mark Rowley's weasel words really irritating. I mean, the Metropolitan Police has been found guilty of so many, racism, homophobia and so on, and for him to say, oh, I don't agree with the word institutional, it's like, move on. Yep. The issues are much bigger than arguing over those words. Also, Sadiq Khan ultimately has responsibility for the Metropolitan Police, so take some responsibility there.
Well, so it's a bit odd, isn't it, that he sits there as the police commissioner, effectively, and seems astonished that there's something bad going on inside the Metropolitan Police. I mean, why has he not been pushing? It's not as if this is a new story. You know, how many times have we done shows which have led off on exactly this? You know, it happens to be a new report, it happens to be slightly different wording, but not very, you know. And before Sarah Everard, we knew that this was a problem, and Sadiq Khan has done absolutely nothing. I'm not laying it all at his door, but Sadiq Khan and various Home Secretaries and various police chiefs must have known that this was going on. And we keep hearing from police officers who go, it's absolutely dreadful. Well, I mean, it's no wonder they don't catch anybody. They don't even know what's going on in their own building.
But Sadiq Khan, you're absolutely right. He sets the budget, he sets the strategic direction. He's sitting there saying, well, you know, it's obviously terrible. But you're absolutely right, Daisy, about Mark Rowley. I was incensed, actually, when he said, oh, I don't understand the word institutionalised.
It's a political word. It's not.
Word. No, it isn't, actually, because it actually means it's the norm. And that is what this report has said. And I was furious reading the report. And until he accepts it is institutionalised, nothing will change.
You couldn't be... No, go on, Afua, you go.
I was just going to say that if it takes this report, if it takes the murder of Sarah Everard and a year putting together this report for people to realise now that the Metropolitan Police are institutionally racist, sexist and homophobic, you haven't been paying attention. Like Baroness Lawrence so rightly said, since the death of Stephen Lawrence 30 years ago, people have been saying, the black community have been saying, there is a problem with the Metropolitan Police. It shouldn't take Sarah Everard's murder for us to wake up to that. We had the Macpherson report, which was commissioned. That said that the Metropolitan Police was institutionally racist. Another report is going to say the same thing. And instead of the police commissioner just owning up, just taking it on the chin, you're arguing about the details and the language. Look, the Metropolitan Police is rotten from the top to the bottom. But also, they've owning that and do something about it. You're going to be pedantic about the language.
And they've apologised so many times before. And it's like
they do nothing.
They do nothing. I'm sorry. You remember the Stephen Port case that was really shocking, where the Metropolitan Police didn't realise that there was a gay serial killer out there because they were fundamentally homophobic. And when there was an inquest about that was only a couple of years ago. The Metropolitan Police admitted it. Nobody, the police who were responsible, they think that 3 out of those 4 boys wouldn't have died if the Metropolitan Police had been less homophobic. Then the police who were involved got promoted. Not one of them got sacked.
And then you wonder what the gay community thinks about the police. And remember, in this country, we have policing by consent. It's really important that you have faith in the police, and faith and trust is earned.
Absolutely.
But this is a... I mean, I normally like to agree with you, David, but you're way off the mark on this one.
Why?
Mark Rowley is absolutely correct. The word institutionalised is a kind of thing that lazy people use because they think it's a sort of catch-all phrase in order to demonise. It sounds like the enemies of, the people that don't like the police or whatever, have comments to make on the police, will jump on it and go, yeah, it's top to bottom. It's like, of course, it could not be further from the truth. There's so many things going on here. What you were saying, Mike, is absolutely spot on. You know, the crime rate going out, trying to sort crime, solve crime, that's what we want the police to do. That's woeful. This is a slightly different thing. When it comes to the misogyny, the racism, the sexism, no one's going to defend coppers masturbating on trains, the canteen culture, things that women went through, things that black officers went through. That's just not hard to get your head around that. That's all clearly demonstrably wrong.
But a year-long report has found this.
Who is Louise Casey, for God's sake? Louise Casey, David. I don't care what Louise Casey says.
But when you have a report, you have to accept the findings.
She did a report that wasn't as long as it would take a student to write a dissertation.
But let's be very clear about...
She's not a copper.
But
she can't tell Rowley what to say.
Let me just say...
But isn't it
Sorry, I was just going to say, you have to understand that she's taken a year to write this report. The report's findings are really important for the black community, for the gay community, but also she went further, actually. She said, we no longer have a functioning police force. I feel really sorry for the individual officers
I agree,
who are brilliant officers
but this is my
who
point.
are let down by a terrible
system. My point
system.
is, of course, there are fundamental problems with the police force, but the headlines of all of this, what happens with all of this, is that the public run away with the idea that every copper is at it.
That's not what it means.
No, but that's how this story pans out, Afua. It pans out.
Well,
like
you're
that.
right.
And
He's
it
right, though.
couldn't
He's
be-
right, because in a way, I was driving here today, and there was a sort of 5 motorcycle policemen driving towards me, and I just thought, there they go, those misogynists, because everybody's going to look at them like that now. You're never going to look at a policeman now or a policewoman in London without going, there they go.
Listen, this isn't the time for us to do whataboutery. It's not the time for a few bad apples. We know that there is a real problem within the police force. It's a good thing that Louise Casey isn't a member of the police force, because actually she's best placed outside of the organisation to look in and is best placed to point out the problems. Now, I think that discarding the word institutionalised, like David so rightly said, institutionalised means that it's the norm. And it is
but
the
it's
norm.
Not the norm.
It is the norm. And she has proven in this report it is the norm for officers to have these various thoughts. We've seen that in the WhatsApp group.
But it's not the norm. That's the whole point.
But
Ian, I think Louise Casey, having spent a year
nearly a year, about 9 months,
embedded in the Metropolitan Police, is in a much better position to say what the norm is than you are from people
but not the
telling you
Mark Rowley.
anecdotally.
She's saying, I can't believe Mark Rowley said this. He shouldn't have. It's like, no, hang on a second.
But also, Mark Rowley,
I haven't got a lot of time for Mark Rowley, but he's been doing it for 30 years. She did a 9-month report. I'm sure she did it with all the best intentions.
The point is, he was head of counter-terrorism, which is the department that's had more criticism than any other part of his old counter-terrorism. And he said, I was too busy hunting down ISIS.
But Daisy,
I'm sorry, that doesn't
My only point is that if we are to suggest that every copper is in one of those 3 categories.
We're not suggesting that at all.
Today, can I just say, David, today I took phone calls from serving police officers in the Met, and you can tell whether somebody is giving you a load of BS or whether they're actually, being truthful. They were incredulous. They didn't recognise any of this.
Ian, no one's going to call...
They've never experienced.
But we're not.
That's why they picked the phone up.
But Ian, no one's going to call your show and say,
yes, I am.
I'm institutionally racist. I called someone the N-word yesterday, and that female officer's a bitch. It's not going to happen.
Well, lots of people do call his show, though, and many of them are, in fact, very truthful about stuff like that. So it's wrong to say that people wouldn't do that. The point is that I think Ian's got a point. You can't say that everything about it is horrible. Yes, it appears to be uselessly woke, as well as uselessly homophobic. I'm not quite sure how that works.
Probably 2% of coppers.
It can't be both.
We cannot use the word woke in relation to this report about institutionalised racism, homophobia.
We can, but I can use any word I like.
First of all, the word you're using the word woke incorrectly, using it incorrectly, and second of all, it reduces. And then second of all, it trivialises and reduces the real serious problems of homophobia, racism and sexism.
Think it does.
It's nothing to do with
I don't think it does.
culture.
Police officers dancing, wearing rainbow clothes and painting their cars in rainbow colours is woke. Whether you like it or not, that's part of what's wrong.
Yes, but the accusations in this report that the diplomatic and protection officers called their black colleague a monkey.
Yeah, we know that's ridiculous and hopeless and awful.
Well, exactly, but you can't say that
nobody's
that's an
defending
example of woke.
No, I'm not saying it's woke at all. You misunderstand me. I'm saying that it can't be homophobic and woke at the same time. There's something else going on inside the police. They can't get anything right. That's my point.